All right, so get ready because today we are going deep, deep down a rabbit hole.
Oh, this is gonna good.
It really is. We're talking about a theory that says Italy, the country, might actually be a private company.
Okay, I'm intrigued already.
You and me both. We'll be looking at an article from, gets this, an Italian news site called Toscana Today.
Toscana Today. Never heard of it.
Yeah, well, they're the ones who dropped this bombshell. And, it sounds like something right out of a conspiracy theory, right?
Oh, absolutely.
But here's the thing, and this is why we do these deep dives. Sometimes even the craziest ideas can teach us something.
Yeah, you can learn a lot by looking at how these things take root, how they spread.
Exactly. We're not saying we believe it, but we're going to break it down, see what makes it tick, and maybe learn a thing or two about history, power, all that good stuff along the way.
I like where this is going.
So the article, it all hinges on this. There's supposedly a Republic of Italy registration with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission.
The SEC? Wait, like where companies file their stocks and whatnot?
Yeah. The one and only.
Huh. What would a country be doing on the SEC registry?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah, the article even gives a registration number and all. 0000052782.
See, they did their research, right? So the SEC, just a quick reminder for our listeners, it's basically the watchdog for the financial markets. Companies have to register with them to issue stocks, bonds, keep everything above board.
Transparency, accountability, the whole 9 yards.
Now, the article claims this whole registration thing supposedly happened way back in the 1930s, between 1933 and 1934, under Mussolini, no less.
Ah, the fascist era. So Italy's in a weird spot, right?
Yeah.
Globally, you've got the Great Depression, the rise of these authoritarian leaders.
Yeah, things are shaky all over.
And Mussolini, he's all about projecting strength, self-sufficiency, big public works projects, even going so far as to invade Ethiopia.
Trying to flex those muscles.
Exactly. So maybe, just maybe, in that kind of desperate climate, they cooked up some wild financial scheme.
Something to try and prop up the Italian economy, keep things afloat.
That's what the article seems to be suggesting. But even if we entertain that for a second, there's still this massive question mark hanging over it all. Why? What would Italy possibly gain by registering as a company in the U.S., and what's in it for the U.S., for that matter?
It's a real head-scratcher. And think about the legal chaos that would unleash if this were true. For Italy, for its citizens, the whole thing just explodes.
They found everything on its head.
No kidding. And that's
Yeah.
exactly where this article takes us next. It dives headfirst into this legal rabbit hole. It argues that if Italy is, for all intents and purposes, a company, then Italian citizens, well, they're not really citizens anymore.
It just becomes something else entirely.
More like assets governed by this thing called the Uniform Commercial Code, the UCC for short.
Okay, back up for a second. UCC. I'm not a lawyer. Break that down for me.
So the UCC, it's this whole set of rules that basically make sure business dealings are fair. Like when you're buying and selling stuff.
So contracts, transactions, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. But now apply that to people, to a whole nation, and things get real weird real fast.
It's like suddenly everyone's a product, not a person.
Yeah, the article suggests that basic rights like freedom of speech, right to a fair trial, even property rights, all of that goes out the window. Or, at the very least, gets a serious makeover under this corporate lens.
So instead of citizens with inalienable rights, you have
What?
shareholders in the company of Italy?
Hold on. I'm getting whiplash just thinking about this.
It's a wild theory, no doubt.
Okay, but let's be real for a second. If Italy really was secretly registered as a company, wouldn't there be, I don't know, some kind of proof, some paper trail? What evidence does this article even offer?
That's where things get, well, a little flimsy.
Yeah.
They mentioned this finance minister named Young
Yeah.
supposedly had ties to some Vatican financiers.
Okay, now we're cooking with conspiracy theory gas.
Yeah, it's all very cloak and dagger, secret agreements, hidden documents, you know the drill.
Right out of a spy movie. But even if someone, somewhere, wanted to pull this off, why? What's the end game here? Why would the U.S. or even the Vatican get involved in something this crazy?
Okay, put on your tinfoil hat for a second. Let's say you're a powerful entity, right? You want to control things, pull the strings on a global scale.
World domination, the classic.
Having leverage over a country like Italy. Not a bad place to start, wouldn't you say? It's right in the heart of Europe. It's got history, culture, influence.
And let's not forget the food. Pizza alone is worth a world power play, right?
Exactly. Controlling Italy, even indirectly, that's a lot of power, be it political, economic, cultural, you name it.
So it's not completely bonkers to think that someone might see this as a, let's say, strategic opportunity. But let's reel it back in for a minute. even if this was all true, how would this actually affect regular Italians going about their lives?
That's where this whole UCC thing comes back into play. Remember, it's all about business transactions. So things like freedom of speech, even owning a home, all of that suddenly gets looked at through this commercial lens. It could change how laws are enforced, how basic services work, everything.
Wow. It's like taking a whole nation, its culture, its history, its people, and just reducing it to some line in a ledger.
It's a chilling thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
It makes you question what it even means to be a citizen. That bond between you and your country gets warped.
This whole thing is a real mind bender. But it's fascinating how it taps into these anxieties we have about power and control, especially in this day and age.
It's like holding a mirror up to our fears about who's really in charge.
Okay, I think I'm ready to go even deeper down this rabbit hole. What else did this Toscana Today article dig up?
Well, they introduced this guy, Mario Draghetti, but get this, that's not even his real name.
A pseudonym. Oh, this is getting good.
Right, like something out of a spy novel. And he claims to have used this whole Italy as a company theory to, get this, reassert his individual rights.
Wait, back up. Reassert his rights? How does that even work?
So he calls it auto-certification, which basically means he's like, nope, not playing by your rules. He's rejecting the whole traditional citizenship thing.
So if Italy's a company, he's saying he's not going to be treated like an asset.
Exactly. He's trying to opt out of the whole system.
It's like he's some kind of, I don't know, digital age revolutionary or something.
It's a bold move, that's for sure. But legally speaking, it's shaky at best.
But it's interesting though, right? Even if his methods are a little out there, it shows that people are looking for ways to take back control.
Oh, absolutely. There's this growing sense that the traditional power structures, they're not working anymore.
People are disillusioned.
Yeah, and they're hungry for autonomy.
Yeah. Which brings us back to that big question. What does it even mean to be a citizen in this day and age? If countries can be corporations, where does that leave us? What about our rights, our responsibilities, our identity?
It's like the whole foundation of what we thought we knew is shifting. And that's what makes this Toscana Today article so fascinating. Even if the theory itself doesn't hold water, it's forcing us to have these conversations.
It's making us re-examine our relationship with our own countries, the systems that govern our lives.
It's a real wake-up call.
You know, this whole sovereign citizen thing, it's not just limited to this Italy article, right? I've heard it popping up in other contexts, too.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely a thing, especially online.
So what's the deal with that? What do these sovereign citizens actually believe?
It's a bit of a mixed bag, to be honest. But the core idea is that they can declare themselves independent from government authority.
Wait, so they're basically saying, your laws don't apply to me?
Yeah, pretty much. They believe in inherent rights that trump any man-made legal system.
And they try to justify this with what? Natural law? Common law?
All of the above. Sometimes even religious doctrines get thrown into the mix.
It's like they're taking that idea from the article, the one about individuals being corporate assets, and flipping it on its head.
Exactly. They're saying, I'm not an asset, I'm a sovereign individual.
It's a powerful idea, I'll give them that. But how does that actually play out in real life? Do governments just go, oh, okay, you're sovereign, carry on then?
Not quite. Courts have pretty consistently shot down these sovereign citizen arguments.
No surprise there.
But that doesn't stop them. They'll file all these bizarre legal documents, create their own IDs, it's a whole thing.
It's like they're trying to game the system by speaking its language, but in this weird, distorted way.
You could say that. They're trying to operate outside the rules by manipulating the very framework that creates those rules.
It's fascinating and kind of unsettling at the same time.
For sure. So if this sovereign citizen movement is really gaining steam, what does that mean for the rest of us? Should we be worried? It's worth paying attention to, that's for sure. On the one hand, you've got people who are genuinely disillusioned with the way things are, looking for more control over their own lives.
That's understandable, in a way.
Right. But then there's the flip side. This kind of thinking, it could lead to more division, more conflict.
Yeah, if everyone just makes up their own rules, society kind of falls apart, doesn't it?
Exactly. So it's this double-edged sword. A yearning for freedom, but also a potential threat to social order.
This deep dive, it's really taken us on a journey. We started with this wacky theory about Italy being a corporation, and now we're talking about the future of citizenship, the role of government, individual rights, all of it.
It's all connected, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've gone from history to economics to legal systems, even a bit of philosophy along the way.
And we haven't lost sight of the human element at the heart of it all.
Absolutely. These are real people grappling with their place in the world, searching for meaning and connection.
Which brings us to the final part of our deep dive, where we'll wrap things up and leave our listeners with some food for thought. So, we've been down this rabbit hole, right? Italy, corporations, sovereign citizens, the whole 9 yards. What's the big takeaway here? What should our listeners really remember?
Honestly. Approach all this with a healthy dose of skepticism. Don't just take things at face value no matter how crazy they sound.
It's like that saying, right? Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence.
Exactly. And when we're talking about something as big as a country, the evidence better be airtight. But here's the thing. Even if this whole Italy as a corporation thing is a bust, the questions it brings up, those are still important.
It's like it's made us flex those brain muscles. We've looked at this from every angle. History, economics, laws, even philosophy.
And hopefully we've all come out of it with a better grasp of some pretty complex stuff. Individual rights, the role of government, what it means to be a citizen in this crazy globalized world.
I know, I've learned a lot. It's made me rethink some things, that's for sure. My own relationship with my country, how I thought the whole system worked.
And that's what it's all about, isn't it? Sparking that curiosity, challenging those assumptions, getting people to really think about the world around them.
So, for anyone listening who's still trying to process all of this, what's the one thing they should keep in mind?
Be skeptical, but be informed. Question everything, do your own research, and don't be afraid to change your mind when new information comes along. Dive down those rabbit holes by all means, but bring a flashlight and a critical eye.
That's great advice. And sometimes the most interesting discoveries come from the most unexpected places. Who knew an article about Italy and corporations would lead to all this talk about sovereignty and rights and the future of citizenship?
It just goes to show that even the wildest ideas can lead to some pretty insightful conversations.
Couldn't have said it better myself. A huge thank you to all our listeners for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you've got some food for thought and maybe even a little inspiration to do some digging of your own.
And remember, the learning never stops. There are always more rabbit holes to explore, more perspectives to uncover. Keep those minds open, keep those questions coming.
Until next time, stay curious.